There's a thought that hits creatives at 11 p.m. Now, it doesn't happen every night, but enough of the nights that you might know exactly what I'm talking about. What if I'm the reason nothing is moving forward? What if I finally start and then I lose the one thing that made the work feel like mine? That last one, that's the real fear. And nobody is really talking about it. So today, we are going to talk about this. Before we dive into it, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Chris, and over the last 10 plus years, I've been building brands with founders. I've worked with creatives at every different level, from freelance to even 8-figure operators. And what I found throughout my experience is the pattern is really never about talent, skill, or drive. The ones who build, the ones who build the right way. It's not that they're more gifted than the others. What really happened is they stopped letting this unnamed fear make their decisions. They gave the fear less power. So what is this unnamed fear? The fear is that if they legitimize themselves and start to become a founder or an entrepreneur, that they're going to lose some of their creativity along the way because they're going to have more pressure to actually monetize their creativity versus just being able to be creative. And the interesting thing is, I have found with the work that I've done with creatives, entrepreneurs, founders, and visionaries, that their true self actually does want to create a business from their creativity. But what's holding them back is a past version of themselves that lets fear have the steering wheel more so than letting their true spirit have the steering wheel. So we unpack that fear that you have, because that fear is a bottleneck for you actually living a life that you would like to live. If you tend to just lean more towards, I just want to be creative and I don't want to do anything with that creativity, that's totally okay. But the interesting thing is that you'll find that actually taking some sort of action and taking a small step towards turning your creativity into some form of business or some form of community or some form of connection is really honoring the fact that you have something special that you want to share. If you're a creative who knows you're capable of going towards your next level, but you're not really sure how to take the next first step, DM me hybrid on Instagram and we'll talk about how you can step confidently into starting to build a business from your creativity. The great thing about this video is that it's actually the gateway into a 6-part series that I'm putting together that is called From Creative to Founder in this new AI era. What is interesting about this now with the influx of AI and all these new tools and ways that we can automate parts of our systems, parts of our growth, and parts of our businesses is that there's something that I think a lot of people get stuck in a trap of doing. As somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, chasing virality is going to be a slippery slope, because chasing virality is honestly what's going to take you from where you're at to trying to create content for the algorithms, trying to create content for others, versus trying to create content that actually mirrors the content that you want to create, the content that you feel is the most creative expression of what you're trying to accomplish. If you stay in a space of creating content for yourself first, your community and your ideal clients are going to be naturally attracted to your page because of the fact that you are operating in a space of authenticity and you're choosing to be magnetic versus choosing to chase virality. You're the driver and your talent is the engine. You don't want your talent to be some sort of bottleneck. So we position how you can build as a founder, but we use your creativity and your talent as the engine for how that build happens, so that your creativity is never sacrificed. If anything, your creativity is amplified within this process. This series is really for creatives who don't want to have to reinvent themselves just to build a business. So within the frameworks, the systems, and the programs that I build, one of the things that's really important, I help guide my clients through a process I call identity archaeology. In this process, we actually look at what is your true identity underneath all the layers that you've stacked over the years. These layers can be other people's expectations, other people's ideas of success that you then picked up and carried with you, and pressures from society and outdated ideals, outdated frameworks, outdated concepts that you've picked up along the way. And with identity archaeology, we can basically remove those layers and just get you back to your true identity. In doing that, that allows you to create from that space and to honor that true identity so that your business becomes a reflection of your creativity, my friend, is the dream for all creatives. To not lose your creativity along the way as you grow, but for your creativity to just continue to get stronger as you grow. That's what we focus on here. So a lot of the times, the interesting objections that I'll hear from other creatives, and also what a past version of myself probably would have said as a creative, was, I'm not ready to grow as a creative. This could mean one of three things. Number one is that they're afraid, creatives can be afraid that structure is going to kill their creativity. And that's a fear that probably has been created by external ideals as well as previous experiences. Could have been in a 9-to-5 setup. It could have been in another job that you were in where you felt like any sort of structure in that job just completely took away your ability to be creative and what you were being asked to do. All those things are valid, and there's nothing wrong with feeling like structure can kill creativity. But it's also a fear that's outdated. It's not a fear that's aligning with the present day creative that you are. And I'm here to tell you from direct experience that the present day creative that you are operating based off a fear. Should be operating based off a belief in the fact that your creativity is meant to be shared and it's meant to be seen, and you're meant to be the vehicle for your creativity. So letting go of that fear is one way of changing from I'm not ready to I've never felt more ready. Another reason why creatives say they're not ready is because they have this fear of selling out, because they are afraid that if they start to sell whatever they create, that it won't feel like authentic or special. That is just not the case. And the interesting thing is that monetizing your creativity is not going to make you feel sad. It's not going to make you feel like you lost some of the magic or that you're not staying true to the artist's way. Because all artists can only help the collective of artists by producing art and monetizing from that and building something backed by their creative process or the creative thing that they're bringing to the world. We want to see all artists thrive, and I would love to see you be able to thrive. What I've found with a lot of creatives is that they're afraid that if they fail at monetizing or becoming a founder, building a business from their creativity, that this is going to ruin their identity and their life will be a complete failure, and everyone will realize that they're worthless and that they can't achieve anything because of this one thing. The interesting thing about that is that identity is going to grow with you as you grow. And as you grow as a person, you're going to evolve. And when you evolve, your identity evolves with you. So having one failure at one specific point in a chapter of your life is not something that everybody's going to hold against you or remember or always bring up or judge you for. The interesting thing is that for me, in my own experience, I've learned more from my failures, way more from my failures than I have from any of my successes. For the 3 or 4 successful businesses that I've started and been a founder in, there's also the 3 or 4 complete failures of a business that I was also the founder in. It does not matter, because if anything, I'm more grateful for the failures than I am for the successes. So what I was able to do was alchemize the failures and learn from them so that I was able to strengthen how I can show up as a founder, how I can be more creative and build a system for my businesses that allows my creativity to be the engine, and to work with other amazing entrepreneurs, creatives, and visionaries because of the fact that I had those failures, and those allowed me to understand, be extremely relatable, and be able to say, hey, I've been where you've been at different times in your path. I've been there as well in my own personal journey to where I am today. So you got to acknowledge your failures just as much so as your successes, and realize that your identity is not reliant on one success or one failure. Your identity is more reliant on you being able to look back and say that you lived the way that you wanted to live and that you created things that could positively impact the world, your family, things that matter to you, and to have lived a life by design. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I always am. But in today's landscape, in today's world where AI has such a big influx and flow into all components of life and creativity, the stories that I want to tell you about are the stories about the creatives that decided to move and dedicate their growth to their own personal craft by installing systems that allowed them to leverage AI versus letting AI become more of a power source to their business than their creativity. Your creativity should be the backbone. It should be the source of everything that you build so that you don't lose any of that in the process. And the interesting thing is that a lot of times what actually ruins the success and growth of really talented creatives is the fact that they were waiting for the right entry point. They were waiting for the right time to step into the market and build something versus actually setting up a structure that allows their creativity to guide them to what they want to build and building something that can then amplify their creativity. So instead of waiting, it's all about structure. It's all about allowing your true craft to continue to guide where you want to go. And maybe you've heard this voice of yours that is speaking to you that's saying that there's a gap that you have right now between your creativity and being able to build a business, being able to be a founder, and being able to somehow find the balance between those identities of creative and founder. The thing is that most creatives actually try to bury that signal that they have, that internal voice that's telling them that they can balance this. They try to bury it in more work, learning more skills, or taking another course, or diving into another distracting creative project that actually isn't aligned to where they even want to go. So the question isn't how to stop that inner voice that's telling you to take action. The thing is to actually listen to that voice and realize that there's a part of you that's resisting. There's a part of you that's authentic. There's this constant voice that says there's a gap between your creativity and what you're wanting to build. And there's also this constant voice of resistance that is telling you to stay where you're at because it's comfortable. The best creatives, they're using simple systems to allow their creativity to flourish. They're setting themselves up for success by not lowering the volume of the intuition that's trying to tell them where they're going, but actually listening to their intuition and taking action on how to build something. Because you can have structure and you can build structure, but then you can leave space within the structure for the creative flow to happen. But if you don't have any structure, it's like being out trying to swim in the middle of a lake. You don't know which way to go. But if you have a boat, then you have some sort of structure that can then guide you to where you want to go on the lake. So having some sort of structure isn't going to actually hold your creativity back. So you have to listen to the voice, the intuition that's telling you that the structure and having some structure in place is only going to amplify your ability to be more creative and make more of an impact and do some really cool shit in your life. Let's be completely just real and put this out there, man. AI is commoditizing execution. There's never been a time in history where execution can happen as fast as it's happening right here, right now. AI is doing that. And the best creatives and the ones that are going to succeed and become the best founders aren't going to be the ones who are chasing the cheapest bottom price or the fastest solution. The creatives that win are going to be the ones who are going to be able to do what no AI prompt or AI engine can replicate. They're going to be the ones that have a unique point of view. They're going to be the ones that leverage their perspective and perceptions. And they're going to be the ones that build a brand around their creativity that carries serious weight. I'm not sitting here telling you to become some business bro who constantly tries to flex how much money they make or how good their numbers and Excel sheets look or what their agency is capable of and only talking from that point of view. I'm here to talk to you about the fact that you don't have to abandon your craft. You can build something that's backed by your unique style, your unique approach. You can install a system that allows your creativity to flourish. And allow your creativity to become the core of the business so that you continue to amplify it and you continue to feel like you can have fun as you build. That's where we operate in. Yeah, and the thing is, the creative life and the business life were never meant to be some separate things that you had to choose between one or the other. You can have both at the same time. When it's built right, the brand, it actually becomes the art. The brand holds the space for the creativity. Let's talk about the fears that we want to name as we step from creative to the big fear, which we touched on earlier, is that building a business will cost you your creative identity. What we were able to actually unpack earlier in this video was that building a business with creativity as your engine is only going to amplify your identity as a creative. You actually just become a creative who runs a successful business that allows you to continue to create freely and have fun while you build something that supports your life by design. We also want to touch on there's this fear of AI replacing creatives and this fear of AI stripping away some of the beauty of what makes things creative. Now, what we talked about earlier is we unpacked the fact that if we can leverage AI as a tool that can only amplify our creativity, then we can place AI where it needs to be placed in our system. And that's something we'll touch on more in the next few videos. But for now, just want you to know that the system is going to be fueled by the creativity, and the AI will just be part of the vehicle that supports the engine. We also talked about the fear of structure, because a lot of times creatives fear structure because they fear that they will lose some of that magic, some of that flow that they have when there's any sort of structure in place. Structure actually doesn't stall creativity. It's not a bottleneck for creativity in any way. The right amount of structure actually allows you to be even more creative, more badass, more weird, and more yourself. So having structure, the right type of structure, which we'll talk about in the next few videos, is actually the catalyst for being able to unlock the versions of you that are going to be the most creative and allow you to turn that creativity into a business. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, in part 2, we're going to talk about the identity shift as a creative that makes all of this possible. Most creatives don't actually fail or fear building because they lack talent. They fear building or will fail at it because they weren't able to actually identify who they truly are as a creative before they tried to build the business. You need foundation, and so in part 2, we're going to talk about that identity foundation so that you can understand who you truly are as a creative and how you will position yourself while you become a founder in this new AI era. So you won't want to miss it, so subscribe, and I'll see you there.